So only 53 attendees are there. It seems you guys are. And where are the rest of the guys? So we have we are 150 it seems, or 130, 140. Okay. Okay, in the last class, we were talking about we have already talked about relative and specific humidities, and in the last class we talked about dew point temperature, and dew point temperature is the temperature Tsat at that particular pressure. So it means you are at some state 1 and you hit your saturation condition by coming along with the constant pressure line. So that is where you hit uh, the point temperature, and it has a large implication in day-to-day lives. We have seen that. We have taken one numerical problem. Today we are going to discuss about a few more terminologies we will often encounter while analyzing the refrigeration systems, and one such keyword is adiabatic saturation temperature. We need to understand this. Not only this, we have other keywords such as dry bulb temperature and wet bulb temperature. And today we will try to understand these three keywords: adiabatic saturation temperatures, dry bulb temperature, and wet bulb temperature. And these keywords will be widely used, will often used in this context. Okay, let me read the statement, one statement that one way of determining the relative humidity is to determine the dew point temperature of the air as discussed in the last section. Knowing the dew point temperature, we can determine the vapor pressure Vp and thus the relative humidity. But that approach is quite lengthy. So we have, there is another way to determine the relative humidity with the temperature datas. If we have temperature and pressure data, we can actually get these omega 1 and omega 2s. Okay, so for that we set up an experimental setup. So in this setup, what has been done, there is a long pipe. This pipe is very long, in which liquid water is kept, or it is being kept at constant temperature T2. Okay, it was kept in this cabin or in this enclosure, and what you do, you circulate unsaturated air from one end, from this inlet 1. You forcibly bring this unsaturated air whose temperature is T1, whose specific humidity is omega 1, that is you don't know, unknown, and its relative humidity is phi1. Okay, now the stream of air that comes into this long pipe, while going through this chamber, since its temperature is higher than this T2, it is kept in that manner. So T2 is kept quite cool, quite lower. So what happens? This liquid water in this due course of the run of this unsaturated air over this path, these water vapors I mean, this liquid water actually evaporates. Some of the liquid water actually evaporates. Okay, and it it got mixed. And it got mixed with this air, and this becomes, I mean, then it allows my air to become more moisture. Okay, so basically we are inducing moisture into this running air that was initially unsaturated. It means it has some omega and some phi, but not fully saturated. And during this course, the liquid water evaporates and it takes more moisture out of that. And if at all this pipe is long enough, at the exit the air becomes totally saturated. Okay, we can do that. Yes, if it is long enough, we can do that. I mean, it take up more and more moisture, and finally you'll have a situation, you have a state that now your air is saturated enough, and now your temperature is T2, and now specific humidity is omega 2. But the thing is, you now are sure that because of the saturated air, the moisture content, maximum moisture content it has taken, so its relative humidity is 100% at that temperature T2. Okay, and once it reaches this particular condition, saturated air condition, this temperature is known as adiabatic saturation temperature. Okay, the significance of this adiabatic saturation temperature we'll talk in the next few slides, but let me first go through the mathematical derivation for this setup. So what is our aim? So our aim is to find omega 1 and omega 2. Omega 1 and omega 2, those are unknown. What is my specific humidity at inlet and outlet, given that the temperature and other data, temperature and pressure data, since it was given. Okay, before mathematical derivation, we also want to look where this adiabatic saturation temperature actually falls on the TS plot. So we have already seen that from state 1 to state, let's suppose this is my state 2 dash, and when you go at constant pressure isobarically, you reach something called dew point temperature. We have already seen that, and this is slight deviation from dew point temperature. But again you are hitting to a saturation condition. This is also a saturated condition. But you are not hitting exactly the dew point, rather than you are hitting the saturation condition, and at this temperature is also called wet bulb temperature, TWB actually. Okay, you should also know that this is also called TWB. Okay, and we will further talk about this wet bulb and dry bulb temperature in certain fashion. We will come back again, but till now let's consider that this is adiabatic saturation temperature, and it is different from what you reach to the dew point temperature. Okay, it's not going isobarically, but some polytropic process, some other process, but you are hitting the saturation condition. Okay, so let's talk about that chamber again. So this was your chamber. And this was your inlet condition 1, and you have air, and you have a liquid kept over here, and some mass of liquid evaporated and mixed with this unsaturated air, becoming more saturated, and after that you hit the stage 2 or state 2, that is your mixture, and this mixture has relative humidity 100%, T2, omega 2. Okay, here your things are T1, omega 1, and some phi. Okay, so let's start talking about first the mass balance. Okay, so let's talk about mass balance of air and vapor separately. Okay, separately. So when I talk about air, so air is dry air, right? So dry air mass will be conserved, okay, at 1. So let's suppose I have m dot a1 is happening. I mean the mass flow rate of air, dry air, was m dot a1 here, and nothing has been mixed. No air has been mixed. No dry air rather has been mixed in between. So whatever the mass that is coming out will be the dry air mass at 2. So this is what it is written. Okay, the mass balance of dry air is kept constant, and which is you call as m dot a, sum m dot a. Now let's talk about the vapor mass balance. So at left hand side we have, I mean it was unsaturated, but yes, it has some omega, some phi. So it may contain some of the mass of water as well. Okay, so let's suppose this is your mass of water that was there initially. Okay, and now mass of m dot f that has been evaporated and mixed with this air. Okay, so this and this being mixed, and you get m dot m dot w2. So I should write w, not omega. Okay, let's not confuse that. This is w, water vapor. So this is what it is written, mass of water vapor at inlet 1, which is mixed with the evaporated air in the chamber, sorry, evaporated H2O or vapor mixed with it, and you get m dot w2. Okay, now let's we can further go one step ahead, and we can write m dot w in terms of omegas. Can we write that? Can somebody tell me what was my omega? Omega is equal to mass of vapor divided by mass of dry air, right? So mass of vapor or water can be written as omega times mass of dry air. We can write that. So let's write this omega, or rather this is omega 1 if I'm talking about at 1 state. Omega 1 m dot a1 plus evaporated vapor. Can somebody tell me what should I write there? Okay, so we don't know this, so let me find this. M dot f is equal to m dot w. Can I write? So w2 is equal to mass of vapor at 2, mass of dry air at 2. So this is omega 2 m dot a2. Okay, and we also know that this a1 and a2 are equal, which is equal to ma. So we can further write m dot f is equal to m dot a times omega 2 minus omega 1. Okay, now you are ready with, I mean you know that the evaporated mass, of the vapor that has been evaporated inside the chamber will be the multiplication of dry air mass flow rate times the specific uh, humidity at inlet 2 minus inlet 1. Okay, let's call this equation 1. Fine, mass balance is over. Now let's talk about energy balance. So energy balance is I'm since the beginning I'm talking about energy balance is. Tell me.
Can you just explain why the mass of dry air doesn't change when it passes from
Air,
point 1 to 2?
okay, this has not been changed. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
so okay, so we have the total air here. Okay, so total air is going. Total air means it is composed of dry air plus the vapor. Okay, it is comprised of dry air plus vapor. Since the beginning I'm talking about this thing. Let me go back and let's see. Since the beginning I'm talking about. So yes. So what is your dry air? Dry air is the air that contains no water vapor. So and what is your atmospheric air? So atmospheric or total air. So your total air means or the net air is equal to this dry air plus vapor, because we told from initially that we are going to study these two things separately. Okay, so dry air mass has, let's suppose, ma, and this is mv. Okay, now you have a chamber. Okay, and you have a liquid water over here. Okay, liquid H2 was there, only liquid water, there was no air here. Okay, now the atmospheric air is being run through it. Okay, now this atmospheric air contains both these things. Okay, and so you have ma plus mv, both you are coming in, and now this thing has been evaporating in the form of mf, and that this is vapor only. Okay, now the outside thing you will get what, this ma will not change. Okay, dry air will be ma again, but this mv plus mf you have to add as an additional vapor. Okay, so you can see the breakups. So as a whole you have two things, dry air and vapor, and as a whole after exit you'll have again dry air and vapor, but you see that dry air mass has not increased, dry mass, because nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide and argon, these are dry air, and I'm not adding any of such nitrogen or oxygen or carbon dioxide or argon. I am just adding H2O. So H2O is going to be added here, not here. So that is why m dot a1 is equal to m dot a2. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, since the beginning, let's talk about the energy balance. From the start, we have written so many times this energy equation, E in minus E out is equal to D. Since I'm writing rate form, so I should write dE by dt. Okay. One more thing I wanted to talk about is the adiabatic saturation process described above can be analyzed as steady flow process. It means your properties are not changing with time. With time, it means once your steady state has achieved, so your dE by dt is not going to be changed for this particular control volume. So I'll take this as a control volume, this box as a control volume. So the energy change once the process has happened, or it has been I mean continuous flow of things are happening and the things has been reached to steady state, the energy change inside the control volume will be 0, and that is why you can write E dot in is equal to E dot out. So what are my energy that is coming in? So energy coming in will be in the form of Q work, okay, heat transfer, work transfer, and the flow work. It means theta. Theta, to be more precise, I can write in terms of enthalpies, right? So Q in, W in, H in. This I can write Q out, W out, H out, right? And yes, so there are no heat transfers, there are no work transfers happening over here. So only energy transfer that is happening is due to the enthalpies associated with the dry air plus the vapor, right? Because there are two substances, so we have to take care of enthalpies of these two substances individually. Okay, now fine. So what is my H in? What is my in that is happening? So in is happening due to okay. So the in is happening due to this at this state, at one state. So we can write m dot a times h1 is the energy that is coming in. Also, you are adding energy in the form of this inside evaporation that is happening, m dot f times hf2, and this should add, and this should be collectively seen as an exit as m dot a times h2. Okay. Now what should we do is, let me write it again, m dot a h1 plus m dot f hf2 is equal to m dot a h2. Also m dot f we have already calculated. What is this? M dot f is equal to m dot a times omega 2 minus omega 1. M dot f is equal to m dot a times omega 2 minus omega 1. Let me substitute it over here, and I can write m dot a h1 plus m dot a omega 2 minus omega 1 hf2 is equal to m dot a h2. So these cancels out. Okay, now this h1 and this hf, so let me write it first, plus omega 2 minus omega 1 times hf2 is equal to h2. We got relation, but we need to find the enthalpies associated with 1, 2 and hf2. So we have already seen that the enthalpies associated with h1, we have already seen that h1 will comprise of both, yes, this total enthalpy, specific enthalpy or F in atmospheric air is comprised of dry air enthalpy and the vapor enthalpy, right? In these terms. So HA is of dry air is often written as CPT at that temperature, and this I can write similar omega H vapor or so. So I can write this also, right? So for air CP or maybe CP average you can write, or any CP of air you can, dry air you write, you can take the value of this CP from the table, and T is the temperature. So I can write here CPT1 plus this can be written as a whole as CPT1 plus omega 1 HG or HV vapor will be there, but let me write HG1 in terms of table, since I'm going to look into the tables now. Both are same, plus omega 2 minus omega 1 times HF2 plus, now this H2 can be written as, this is equal to, H2 can be written similar fashion, CpT2 plus omega 2 times Hg2. Right. Now if you do the algebraic manipulations correctly, you could find omega 1 as Cp T2 minus T1 plus omega 2 HF G2. So not HFG2, this should be HG2. This should be Hg2 divided by Hg1 minus Hg2. This is the expression you can get. So now you know that what is your specific humidity that the air you are inletting. Okay, if these values are known. Okay, what is my omega 2? Omega 2 will also be known. Omega 2 from that expression, previous expression, omega 2, we have already a relation between omega 2 and omega 1, and that is yes, omega value is this. So here your phi will be at omega 2. At omega 2, your phi is 100%. So write the expression over here, or here both are same. So this is, let's suppose this is your omega 2, just substitute your phi as 1.622 pg by, or at 2 you are talking about, then 2 p2 minus pg2. Yes, so this expression you should export over here, and you can write this omega 2. So omega 1, you have one equation for omega 2 also. Now you can have the known value of omega 2 with this formula. One second. Okay, we have a few minutes left, so let me tell you that even since so far we are in a process to find omegas, omega 1 and omega 2. Okay, there is one more even better approach, even practical approach to find these values, to use the thermometer whose bulb is covered with the cotton wick saturated with water, and to blow air over the wick, and the temperature measured in this manner is called wet bulb temperature. Okay, now this is the similar process. We have done so many calculations. So even not doing this, we can actually use something called, so you take a simple thermometer. Okay, and this simple thermometer, whatever the temperature it reads at normal condition, it is called dry bulb temperature. Okay, but there is a modification you do. What modification? You put a cotton cloth soaked with liquid water. Okay, now what you do, your air is, let's suppose your air is unsaturated. Okay, and you blow the air over this wick. Okay, now what will happen? The liquid that this cotton is possessing is now going to get evaporated and getting mixed with airflow. Okay, so in order to do that, what will happen? The temperature that it is associated with this thermometer surface will decrease in some sense. So temperature at that point, whatever the temperature it reads is called wet bulb temperature, and which is nothing but the temperature you are getting over here, T2. Okay, so both are same. So this is another way to find the wet bulb temperature. So why this has why this wet bulb temperatures are more okay, one question, let me ask one question before that. What if my air is totally saturated? So the saturated air is being blown over this wet soaked liquid cotton. What will happen? What temperature it could read? Can somebody tell me? So at the normal condition, it tells my dry bulb temperature. Okay, so if the saturated air is being blown over this wick, what do you think? What temperature? Whether the temperature will be dipped down or not? Can somebody comment? Yes or no? Okay, so the answer is when you blow the saturated air, means your relative humidity was 100%. So your moisture content in your air was maximum at that temperature. Okay, so no further evaporation will take place from this soaked cotton since you have already saturated air is there. So at that time, your wet bulb temperature will be same as the dry bulb temperature. Okay, so this is a measure of sometimes this wet bulb temperature is a measure of, so lower the wet bulb temperature, you will tell that your air contains lesser water vapor, right? The more lower the wet bulb temperature of this thermometer you get, you will know that somehow you will know that the air is not that saturated, okay, or it is unsaturated, or it is totally unsaturated. Okay. This is so there is the device called sling psychometer, in which both wet bulb thermometer and dry bulb thermometers are mounted, and you are going to rotate this. While rotating this, so whether you blow the air or you rotate the thermometer, okay, you rotate the thermometer, rotating this, since there is a wet wick over here, so the temperature measured by this thermometer will be wet bulb temperature, and temperature measured by this temperature, this thermometer will be dry bulb temperature. Okay, so there is a difference. If there is a difference, you will tell that the air is unsaturated, and if your both the things are same, you will tell that your air is maximum saturated. Maximum means your air has been in the saturation condition. Okay, no more vapor it can take out of this. Okay, this is the way you can actually get the idea of whether your air is saturated or unsaturated by keeping a track of this wet bulb and dry bulb temperatures. In the next class, we'll talk about there is something called psychometric chart. So in this chart, we have several parameters, and we can, once we locate our state over here 1, so just by locating it, we can actually estimate our specific humidities, dry bulb temperatures, wet bulb temperature, dew point temperatures, and all. Okay, we'll see this in the next class. In this class, any doubt so far? So I have already taken attendance in the